I'm Paul Revere.
Hi.
Perhaps you think of me as younger and heartier. Oh, but that was so long ago. April of 1775, when I galloped up to this very house to warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams that the redcoats were out. Well, I've aged much since that day, and a friend has asked me to write about that ride while I still remember it, so that others might know the real story. I hope you don't mind if I read a bit of what I've written. You might be surprised at some of the details. In the fall of 1774 and winter of 1775, I was one of 30 who formed ourselves into a committee for the purpose of watching the movements of the British soldiers. The Saturday night preceding the 19th of April, about 12 o'clock at night, the boats belonging to the British transports were all launched and carried under the sterns of the men of war. We likewise found that the grenadiers and light infantry were all taken off duty. From these movements, we expected something serious was to be transacted. On Tuesday evening, the 18th, it was observed that a number of soldiers were marching towards the bottom of the common. About 10 o'clock, Dr. Warren sent in great haste for me and begged that I would immediately set off for Lexington, where Messrs. Hancock and Adams were, and acquaint them of the movement and that it was thought they were the objects. When I got to Dr. Warren's house, I found he had sent an express by land to Lexington, a Mr. William Dawes. The Sunday before, I had been to Lexington. I returned at night through Charlestown and agreed that if the British went out by water, we would show 2 lanterns in the North Church steeple, and if by land, 1. For we were apprehensive it would be difficult to cross the Charles River or get over Boston Neck. When I left Dr. Warren, I called upon a friend and desired him to make the signals. Then 2 friends rowed me across Charles River. On Charlestown side, they said they had seen our signals. I got a horse of Deacon Larkin. While the horse was preparing, Richard Devens of the Committee of Safety told me that he came down the road from Lexington after sundown and met 10 British officers, all well mounted and armed, going up the road. I set off upon a very good horse. It was then about 11 o'clock and very pleasant. After I had passed Charlestown Neck, I saw 2 men on horseback, British officers. One tried to get ahead of me, and the other to take me. I turned my horse very quick and galloped toward Charlestown Neck, and then pushed for the Medford Road. In Medford, I awaked the captain of the Minutemen, and after that, I alarmed almost every house till I got to Lexington. Reading this brings back that night so vividly to me. I can almost hear Sergeant Monroe and his men coming up the road to guard the house. And I can see myself, younger and stronger, galloping up the road with a warning that would start a revolution.
To the left wheel, march. But take care. Halt. To the right. Face. Gentlemen, you know your assigned post. Take up your duties. Mr. Clark.
Oh, Will Monroe, is that you? You know Mr. Hancock, I am sure.
Yes, sir.
Why are all these men here?
There seems to be trouble brewing this evening. Earlier, a mounted patrol of regulars rode through town. We think on their way to Concord.
Yes, I received a dispatch from fellow patriot Elbridge Gary just a few hours ago that 8 or 9 officers of the King's troops were seen on the road. He believes they are out upon some evil design.
Looking for you in Adams, most likely, to effect your arrest, if not your assassination. Mrs. Clark has been made distraught by the rumors flying about.
Well, I sent word back to Gary that we were obliged for the warning and would pass it along to Concord. I believe this is a matter of the most deadly seriousness.
And we are in agreement, Mr. Hancock. These men are here as a safeguard for you and Mr. Adams.
Now, Sergeant, my fiancée, Dorothy Quincy, and my Aunt Lydia Hancock are spending the night in the West Chamber sleeping. I trust. Could you see to it that your men remain as quiet as possible?
I shall attend to it, sir.
Is there further intelligence, John? My instincts and misgivings inform me that our friend, General Gage, is up to something. Seizing arms in Concord? Arresting us? Or perhaps something even more extreme?
We seem to live these days in a constant turmoil of threats and alarms. Gage has 4,000 troops in Boston, and I believe he is under some pressure from London to use them.
Strength he may have in numbers, but not in resolve and determination. Since they closed our seaport, our countrymen are turning out every week for drills, even our parsons and squires. But food and firewood are in short supply. The Royal Navy is buying up all the available mutton and wildfowl. And many of our homes are lacking in warmth, John.
Of which I am well aware. Have you seen the condition of the palings in my picket fence lately? Hacked to pieces by those malicious regulars for firewood. And fish, our most abundant staple. Fish cannot be had in Boston at any price. If it were not for our friends to the south, we would be in the gravest of circumstances.
Thank God for their help. A crisis is most certainly coming. And the only question is what form it will take.
Now, when Revere was here Sunday last, he spoke of unusual troop movements in Boston. That town is a tinderbox of rumor and suspicion. People all over the province are on edge.
Gage is readying an expedition into the countryside. If we only knew where and when, we could use that information to our great advantage.
Gentlemen, let us continue this conversation inside before retiring. Good night, Will.
Sleep well, gentlemen.
Samuel. That's Samuel Adams. Likes to stir the pot. And he wants to be in charge. But we need someone like him to stand up to the governor's cronies. The situation in Boston has become alarming. Much too much turmoil. Samuel, do you think anything will happen tonight?
I fear the pot is about to boil over.
It is.
Conditions are worsening, and every town is filled with distressed families who have fled Boston in terror. Trouble appears close at hand.
Aye. There is a reason that John Hancock and Samuel Adams chose to stay here in Lexington rather than go back to Boston after the provincial congress in Concord adjourned. You know, Samuel, the Reverend Clark's wife is the first cousin to Mr. Hancock. Why do you suppose that patrol was prowling the countryside tonight? Sergeant Monroe,
Enoch.
further news on those regulars?
None, Enoch. But I am concerned about their activities, and so is the captain. My wife and 3 young ones saw that patrol ride by our house around 7 o'clock, and the family is most fearful.
I told my wife that if she heard any alarm muskets, she must take our young son and flee. I'm not sure just where she and the babe will go to seek shelter. Perhaps she'll make her way across the fields to the Bridge Farm.
Men, shh. Keep your voices low and your discussions to a minimum. The family is to bed and trying to sleep. Stay alert. Buckman Tavern. Take a position in the road. Do not let this rider pass without identifying himself. Stay alert, men. Ready, man.
Ready to run. Who are you? What is your business?
Revere! My name is Revere, and I have urgent news for Mr. Hancock and Mr. Adams. There's no time to lose. I must see them now.
Cousin John, who goes here? Oh, Revere. I recognize you now, but you're making entirely too much noise. Before we to bed.
Noise? You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming out in force. I must awaken Mr. Hancock and Mr. Adams and warn them of the danger. Mr. Hancock, Mr. Adams, arise, arise, Mr. Hancock, arise, Mr. Hancock, Mr. Adams.
Revere, is that you?
We're not afraid of you. Do you bring us news from Dr. Warren?
Indeed I do. The regulars are out, hundreds of them, and fully equipped. They're rowed across the river to Cambridge. We believe they're on their way to Concord and our powder stores. I left Charlestown shortly before 11 p.m. this evening and have been riding hard ever since. I've already alerted the Sons of Liberty in both Medford and Menominee, and Dr. Warren has dispatched William Dawes to Roxbury and Cambridge. He should be here any time now.
What do you make of it, Samuel?
We must respond. The eyes of the people will be upon us. The liberties of our country are worth defending against all hazards, and it is our duty to defend them against all attacks. What a glorious morning this may prove to be.
Gentlemen, I beseech you, what is the occasion for this clamor? You have awakened my family, and Mrs. Clark is most dreadfully anxious.
Sir, it is just as we feared. The regulars are marching out, apparently hundreds strong. Dr. Warren is concerned for our safety and has sent Revere to warn us.
This news is most alarming, this news is. I shall be down presently.
Sergeant Monroe, send word to Captain Parker to alarm the militia.
Yes, Mr. Hancock. Nathaniel Wyman.
Sir.
Head down to the common, find Captain Parker, and tell him he is wanted here immediately.
Yes, sir.
And remember to come back with him.
Yes, sir.
Revere, come inside and refresh yourself while we discuss what to do. Aye.
Hear what Paul Revere just said? The regulars are out tonight, in force, just as we surmised. If they are proceeding to Concord, they'll be here in Lexington in several hours.
I agree. These are no longer idle rumors. Sergeant Monroe, what are our orders now?
We will wait for word from Captain Parker. I just sent an alert to get him.
Sergeant, the captain's on the carbon. He'll need us.
You men will not quit your posts unless I command you otherwise. You are to remain at your post and perform your duties. There is another rider coming at a quick pace. Check this man's advance. Do not let him pass without he identify himself. The countryside is astir this evening. It is not a good thing.
Ben, grab his mouth. Don't let him pass. I'm Dawes, William Dawes. I come with urgent messages from Mr. Hancock and Mr. Adams, from Joseph Warren and the Committee of Safety. I left Roxbury well over an hour ago, but was delayed. Has Revere arrived yet, sir?
He just arrived.
Yes, he's inside with Hancock and Adams. Go right in. Oh, ladies, you've been awakened. I don't mean to add to your anxiety, but the regulars are on the road tonight, and we must see to your safety.
Oh dear, what does this mean? Are we at peril?
Now, Aunt Lydia, please don't become agitated and begin to fret. You will only weaken yourself.
Nephew Jonas, what are we to do? Must we flee? Where can we go at this hour?
Dear madam, compose yourself, I beg you.
I knew some such thing would occur in this provincial place. If only my dear husband Thomas were here to help me, he would relieve me of this distressful burden.
There, Aunt Lydia. John will know what to do. He and Mr. Adams are discussing the situation at this very moment. Meanwhile, we can take our own measures. Mr. Clark, with the Keaton's troops on the march, we would do well to secrete our valuables, silver, watches, and the like. Is there a suitable place to conceal them?
Oh dear, must we? My jewelry?
I would suggest in the attic or down in the cellar with the potatoes.
Then let us get to it, and promptly.
Things are happening so quickly.
Sergeant, we have your men bring forward the horses immediately. These riders must be on their way.
Cousin John, head down to the stables and have the horses brought forth. Quickly.
Samuel, have you any plans to hasten from this place? Perhaps secrete yourself? It might be wise. Rumors abound in Boston that General Gage has orders from London to lay hands upon you and Hancock.
The necessity of the times, more than anything, calls for our utmost circumspection, deliberation, and fortitude. So trust that we shall act accordingly, not in a rash manner. And what of you, Dawes? Did you carry further orders from Dr. Warren to express any further warnings?
Indeed we do, for Colonel Barrett and the provincial stores in Concord. In fact, we must give them ample time.
Well, we certainly wish you safe passage. Your honor, your sense of duty to the cause are being lauded by many this night.
Paul, I fear, had it not been for my frequent business in the Roxbury tan yards, I might not have made it past the sentries at Boston Neck. General Gage is in fact coming this way, and he's trying to prevent any further advance notice of their arrival. We both narrowly escaping the patrols, I feel it would be best if we forge on together.
Agreed.
Check your tack, tighten that girth. With all that news of patrols out this way, who knows what we might encounter on our way to Concord.
Let's ride.
Let us be off.
Throttles. Godspeed.
this hour, words can do no more and actions must speak the loudest.
True enough. If we suffer tamely a lawless attack on our liberty, we encourage it.
Which is why I have retrieved my pistol. I intend to join the militia on the common and stand against these villains.
John, your spirit is commendable, but prudence must prevail now. It's best that you both seek safety elsewhere.
Now, when I think of the men of Lexington, many of them miserably armed, standing up to these noxious vermin, I cannot conceive of being anywhere else. The front line, that is where any true patriot must be.
We cannot make events, John. Our business is to shape them best we can. Blood may well be spilled before the sun rises. Although it is very important that we do not be seen as provoking it. Of course you desire to be in the thick of it, but you and I belong to the cabinet. If John Hancock, president of the provincial congress, is butchered on the common or delivered into the hands of the hangman, does nothing to serve the cause of liberty.
Well, if I had my musket, I would never turn my back on these troops.
Mr. Hancock, please, your life is in danger and so is our mutual happiness. I beg you, please, do not remain here, but hasten away while you are still able. I shall go to my father's house in Boston as soon as possible.
Mistress Quincy, it is unthinkable. I shall not allow it. You will not return to Boston as long as there is a British bayonet left there.
You, sir, are most high-handed. Recollect, Mr. Hancock, I am not as yet under your control. I shall go to my father's house tomorrow. I know that you are concerned for my safety, John, as we all are for yours.
Oh, my dear Dolly, your anxiety is most touching, and your kind affection will sustain me wherever I am. And I see the wisdom in Samuel's words, although it pains me. We shall find safe haven elsewhere, and send word as to our whereabouts. But please, I beg you, do not return to Boston. It is most imprudent. You and Aunt Lydia will be much safer staying here with the Clarks.
I agree with you, John. Mistress Quincy, I deem it most unwise for you to travel at this time. Please, you and Lydia must stay as our guests for as long as the present circumstances require.
Someone else is approaching.
Who is it?
Oh, Captain Parker. Yes, sir. Right this way.
Captain Parker, what is the latest intelligence? The news that Dr. Warren sent with Revere and Dawes is most discomforting.
Mr. Hancock, I wish I could temper your anxiety. When the mounted patrol of regulars rode through, 3 of my men volunteered to follow them. I sent Thaddeus Bowman down the road to Menotomy to find out what he can. But as of yet, I have not heard from any of them. I just dispatched 2 riders to Bedford to warn the militia that the regulars are out.
And what about your company?
The men are gathering on the common. Whatever awaits, we will be ready.
Captain Parker, it is critical in this decisive hour that if there is any violence, if there's to be any provocation, it must come first from the King's troops. We must not sully our cause by attacking them if they do no wrong.
We're in agreement, Mr. Adams. After consulting with the men, I have determined not to make nor meddle with the King's troops. We will stand steadfast in our beliefs that we are free men and our rights shall not be trampled upon. We will let the King's troops pass and not molest them without they begin first.
We can ask no more.
Captain Parker, know that in my heart I will be standing there with you.
And now, gentlemen, We must see that you are conducted safely away from here.
Yes, Sergeant Monroe, is there a place where we can go sometime this late at night safely, somewhere more remote than here?
Captain Reed's place, over in the Woburn precinct. It is not far, and he is a true son of liberty. I am certain he would welcome you both.
Excellent. We shall prepare to take our leave.
Mr. Clark, we are so grateful for your words of counsel and your hospitality. Could you see to it that my carriage is prepared?
With pleasure. Sergeant,
Yes, Captain.
it may be hours before the regulars arrive. Tell the men they may disperse, but must stand to parade at the call of drum. I will return to Buckman Tavern and await word.
Very well. Thank you, sir. Squad, form up! On the double, men. On the double.
Whatever happens in the morning, John, our fight is just beginning. We must awaken the spirit of the people and persevere till the rights and liberties are firmly established.
Samuel, I have the utmost confidence that this noble struggle for liberty will conclude gloriously for America.
To the right. Haste! To the front. March! The right wheel. March! Front!
Well, that's the story of what happened here that night, as best as can be remembered after so many years. Of course, it was hours later down the road on the Common where the first shots of the American Revolution were fired. I was there too, but that's a story we'll save for tomorrow morning. Thank you, and good night.